You hear that sound? The deafening sound of the non-endorsement of Elizabeth Warren. Do you hear it? It should be ringing in your ears at this point. It certainly is ringing in the collective ears of this nation, like a bad case of tinnitus. With each passing day, it crescendos. This sound, this repugnant sound, this discordant sound is echoing from the mountains to the prairies to the oceans. I want to share another sound with you. The sound of Elizabeth Warren's interview with Rachel Maddow. Let's check this out and let's see what you think about it. And I'll give you my thoughts about it as well. This is, of course, about the Bernie Bros. Okay, those Bernie Bros. Oh my God, let's hear about it.
For the first time, because of this onslaught of online threats, that they felt really under attack, and that wasn't the first time it happened. Working Families Party, two women there, women of color, who were attacked right after they endorsed me. And I think this fundamental question about what goes on online and where those lines are and how much each of us, and I want to say this for all of the candidates, back when there were lots of us, we are responsible for the people who claim to be our supporters.
Oh, really? Are you? Because I shared in another video a whole thread that you can find online that shows all sorts of nasty attacks against Bernie Sanders supporters, and the mean and vitriolic things that have been said about them. And a lot of the people in that thread that were sharing these nasty things were Elizabeth Warren supporters. And I haven't heard her come out and disavow those people. Neither have I heard the media come out and say, Elizabeth Warren, you got some pretty nasty people. Those Liz lads online are real nasty, and you need to come out and disavow it. You need to speak against it. I don't hear anybody saying that. It's only when it's Bernie that they decide to say, oh, no, the meanness, the nastiness. Could it be that it doesn't have anything to do with actually trying to take a stand against online harassment and bullying? Could it be more that they're just trying to stop Bernie Sanders' movement, so they'll use whatever excuse it is that they can find in order to do so? Because that's what I suspect it is. These people are not principled, and they're not honest actors. Look, I do not believe that we should be name-calling online. We should definitely treat those that disagree with us with respect. And I have not even always been perfect about doing that myself. It gets heated. Politics in general gets heated, especially with people who are taking to online platforms to share their opinions. Most people who want to talk about politics are pretty passionate about it. And when people are passionate about it, that passion shows and how they approach it. And so there are a lot of people, both Bernie Sanders supporters, Elizabeth Warren supporters as well, and of other candidates, who are not always tactful in the way that they correct a person or disagree with the person. And we should be careful to remember that we live in a world where we all, at the end of the day, we need each other. We're in an interdependent reality where nobody is an island. We all need the community. And so it's important to treat people as such. Remember the importance of each and every single individual and treat them like you would want someone to treat your family member if they were talking to them online, your mom, your dad, your brother. Because the truth is, that is someone's mom, that is someone's dad, that is someone's brother. But it's got to apply to all sides. And I've seen nasty comments coming from the supporters of all of the candidates. Bernie Sanders just so happens to have more young people and a lot of young people are on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're wherever they are on social media. There's a lot of young people in those spaces. So a lot of young people are going to be expressing their opinions in those spaces. Certain percentage of them are going to be disrespectful in those things. And that doesn't mean that it applies to the movement as a whole. And it certainly doesn't mean it's reflective of Bernie Sanders. Just as that whole thread that I read you of Elizabeth Warren supporters being mean and nasty online is also not reflective of Elizabeth Warren, and she should not have to take responsibility for it. I'm consistent and principled on this issue, and I need them to start being the same as well.
Threatening ugly, dangerous things to other. And it's a particular problem with Sanders. It is. I mean, and it just is. It's just a factual question.
No, but it isn't, though. It isn't factual. As you can see in this interview, and in any other interview that you find, any other segment that's done in the news, CNN, MSNBC, wherever, go look it up. I'm sure you can find a plethora of Bernie Bro and Bernie Broette related segments that they've done. Not a single one is rooted in any facts. They give anecdotes and, oh, here's an example of someone that was mean and they liked Bernie. Here's an example of somebody else that was mean who likes Bernie. So it must be Bernie Sanders' fault, right? And it must be that it's only the Bernie Sanders supporters, or primarily the Bernie Sanders supporters, that are doing it. It can't be that we just cherry picked these examples, and we could have, if we wanted to, found Buttigieg supporters online who were mean and nasty, or Klobuchar supporters who had an attitude about something we're calling names. No, we had to find the Bernie Sanders supporters and cherry pick those things. Look, I know that there was a period of time where Elizabeth Warren was getting snake emojis. And should she have been getting them? No. Did I send her any? No. Have I called her a snake in other contexts? Not directly to her online, but have I said it? Have I expressed that opinion? Yes, I have. And I don't think it's necessarily a good thing, and it probably isn't the most constructive way for me to express my frustration with how she treated Bernie Sanders in this primary. However, I love how we're looking at the reaction that people have to injustice and not the injustice itself. You have an entire media, entire legacy media that represents the establishment. And by establishment, I don't mean moderate voters. I mean the powers that be in Washington, D.C. It's the bankers, it's Wall Street, it's our Congress, it's this whole mixture of all sorts of different people, the wealthy elites that are all working together to represent their best interests and the best interests of basically the corporations, and not necessarily looking out for we the people. That's what we mean by the establishment. And they have CNN, MSNBC, and even Fox News to represent their views, their opinions. We don't have anything like that on these in mainstream media. But on Twitter, we have a platform where we can share our voice and express our feelings and emotions. And here we have a woman who goes out there on national television and does her part to smear Bernie Sanders, and in conjunction with the media, does her part to smear Bernie Sanders as some kind of backroom, closed-door sexist. And then comes out after throwing that rock, she wants to hide her hand and be all indignant and clutch her pearls when we rightfully call her out and say, that's kind of some snaky behavior right there, for you to go out there and share the contents of this private conversation, to not give any context for it, but to just share the contents like that, and to and to just basically not back Bernie Sanders up, to not say, this is our conversation, but here's the real context of it, here's what you need to understand, to not do that, but to allow it to just sit out there. And then when you finally do come out, to basically be like, yeah, he said it, but I don't want to talk about it. You can't throw rocks and hide your hand. If you're going to come out here and say or imply that Bernie Sanders is sexist, and you think that the people that support him, that are not represented in the mainstream media, you'll get no pushback. All the mainstream media outlets ran with this thing like it was an actual story. We have 4 sources. You have one source, which is Elizabeth Warren. The other people were just people that were told by Elizabeth Warren. You should expect that the people that are supporters of that candidate, who is unfairly maligned and targeted for negative, gross, unfair, and just downright untrue coverage in the media all the time, you should expect that those supporters are going to come after you. When those that are being unjustly treated, when those that are being oppressed, when those that are being marginalized stand up, it's always the privilege that clutch their pearls and point their fingers like there's something wrong with the fact that these people are demanding justice and equal rights. You can look all throughout history, but you don't have to look very far. Look at our own history. Look at the civil rights movement. Oh, Martin Luther King Jr., he's so popular. Go back to the 60s. Go back to the 50s and 60s. Go back to when he was actually around. How popular was he then? How popular was he then? These same white liberals who will now go out there and talk about how great Martin Luther King Jr. is would have been the same one, you go back to the 60s, that would be against so much of what he stands for. And in fact, they still are against so much of what he stands for. Because Martin Luther King Jr., if you look at him, you read the things that he said and wrote. Actually go back and study it. Don't just take the cherry-picked garbage that they want to just feed you in school, but go back and actually read it. Read Martin Luther King Jr. for yourself. Just immerse yourself in Martin Luther King Jr. for a while. You'll realize that when it comes to politics, he has more in common with Bernie Sanders than any one of these other screwballs that ran in this Democratic primary. Real talk. Real talk. So I'm just over it. I'm over this primary season. I'm over Elizabeth Warren. If you're out there and you're taking to social media to say, Elizabeth Warren, you need to endorse Bernie Sanders, please endorse Bernie Sanders. I said in another video that we should not worry about whether Elizabeth Warren is going to endorse Bernie Sanders or not. We need to leave that alone. That ship has sailed. She's going to do whatever she wants to do. And we should not even call for it. I'd like to make a little bit of addendum on that, if you will. Hope I'm using the right word there, but I'd like to amend that a little bit. If you're calling on her because you have a platform that people follow, and it's your opportunity to potentially get eyes on it, potentially even get Elizabeth Warren's eyes on it, and you're saying, hey, Elizabeth Warren, please endorse Bernie Sanders, because the values that you two hold are so similar, and the reasons that you guys have gotten into politics are really similar. Please endorse Bernie Sanders. Elizabeth Warren, please endorse him, because if we look at the list of policies, you've got way more in common with what you're calling for us to do in this nation with Bernie Sanders than with Joe Biden. So please endorse him. If you're saying, Elizabeth Warren, please endorse him, because, one of the reasons you got into politics in the first place was fighting Joe Biden, fighting his bankruptcy bill. So now be consistent, be principled, and support Bernie. If you have a platform where you could potentially get her eyes on it, and you're calling and saying, listen, I want you to endorse him because it's the principled thing to do, and you're pointing out evidence of it should be clear to anyone that this is the actual principled stand for you to take, then go right ahead, be my guest. Be my guest. But if you are calling for it because You are, even at this late date, naive enough to think that Elizabeth Warren is actually going to endorse Bernie Sanders at this point after everything that we've seen her do to him during this primary season. I would ask you to stop. And honestly, it's not even, for Bernie or for the movement or for Elizabeth Warren. I would ask you to stop for you. Don't put yourself through the mental and emotional strain of expecting anything else from Elizabeth Warren. Let her go. I have, and I feel free as a bird. And I want all of you to experience this post-Elizabeth Warren freedom. Because there is freedom in letting go of a strategy that doesn't work, letting go of toxic people in your life, letting go of negative situations and saying, okay, I'm starting over. This is a new day. This is a new start. And now I'm looking forward to what we can do moving forward. Don't be as delusional as Elizabeth Warren was herself by sticking in through Super Tuesday. Well, maybe as delusional as some of the people on her campaign were, who maybe believed that there was something genuine going on. Again, I don't even believe that was real and genuine. At this point, based on everything that I'm seeing for her, how she's going along with the media narrative on this Bernie bro toxicity nonsense, just as she went along with the narrative about him being a sexist, she's gone along with the narrative that has been against Bernie Sanders at every opportunity that she could, as it has suited her. She's been a typical politician, a player in the game, to use her own words, throughout this entire primary. The entire primary. So, I honestly, at this point, don't even think that her sticking in Super Tuesday had anything to do with an actual belief that she could win the presidency, or that she would go to the convention and somehow they would take the nomination away from the person who got the plurality of votes and give it to someone who can't even win their own home state. She's not that stupid. She's not stupid at all. Elizabeth Warren is very intelligent. She knew that that wasn't going to happen. She knows better than that. She stuck around for Super Tuesday for one reason and one reason only, and that is to blunt the Bernie Sanders campaign. And my hope is that you can all see that now. All right, everybody, I hope you're having a great Friday. Take some time this weekend for self-care. It's been a tough week for us, I know. Take care of yourself. All right, love you guys. Deuce.